So in this major engineering problems are the extraction of sugar juice from cane, then choice of flocculating agent, the evaporation and crystallization, separation of crystal from syrup, and the inversion of sugar. So here the extraction of sugar from the cane is necessary. As you have seen, the sugar cane, they will affect the economics in a lot, because 60% of the 60% of the cost is related with the sugar cane. So it is necessary to get the sugar cane juice from the sugar cane at the high amount. So the extraction is done, and then we are adding water to have the further extraction of sugar cane juice. So this is the method that we require. So the further methods are introduced so that the sugar cane juice will not waste in bagasse, because bagasse again becomes the porous after extracting, and it can absorb the juice which is already extracted. So to avoid that one, we have to go for the newer techniques for the sugar cane recovery, sugar cane juice recovery from the sugar canes. Also the ultrasonics also is developing to break down the sugar cane, and we can get the high yield of the sugar cane juice from the sugars. Then the choice of flocculating agents. As we are adding the sulfur dioxide and the lime to get rid of the flocculating agent, so we have to go for the other agents so that the impurities and the flocculating agent, the colloids, which will be removed at the effective rate from this one. Then, as we know, the evaporation and crystallization. So sugar cane juice is evaporated in triple effect evaporators or the multiple effect evaporators, and they are crystallized. The problem over here, the sugar crystals, they are highly sensitive toward the temperature, also the water percentage in it. So we have to check for the nucleation which is present in sugar cane juice. So here the sucrose solution, it may be concentrated, and in presence of nuclei also it may become the supersaturated. So to avoid that one, we have to go for the vacuum crystallization. Here with the less of the nuclei centers also, sugar crystals will be formed. So in this one crystallization procedure, we have to monitor very minutely, because the crystal size, they will depend upon this procedure. And also the crystallization from the sugar cane juice, we have to get the high yield. So we have to always look over the evaporation and the crystallization procedure that we are adopting to get these crystals. And once their crystal form in solution, we have to go for the separation of the crystal from the syrup. So this is the next critical procedure, because the crystals which are formed, they may have chances to dissolve back into the solution. So before that one, you have to separate them in high speed centrifugation, and the speed also we have to maintain high so that it will be effectively separated from the solution. And there are more chances of getting the inversion of sugar, and the sucrose molecule, they may invert into the other sugar molecules. So to avoid that one, we have to extract the sugar from the sugar cane juice as early as possible, and also the temperature and time we have to maintain so that we can avoid the inversion, and also we can avoid the juice percentage from the sugar cane. An extraction of sugar cane to produce good. So this is the cheaper product than sugar, and that is produced in India. So it is the villagers sugar and represents a low cost product made by simple evaporation process. So here the crystallization will not take place. Directly the sugar cane which we are getting, that will be heated on pan and to produce the good. And 60% sucrose consumption in the form of good in India. So majority of people, they live in villages. So the 60% of the sucrose in their diet, it is in the form of good. Then impurities are removed by vegetable based mucilagent and skim off from the top. So while they are heating the solution, the impurities and the mucilaging agent, they will float at the top, and that can be removed. Then evaporated in open pan till desired concentration is achieved. So if you have seen the procedure, in a very large pan, they will take the sugar cane, and the water, the bagasses, they will burn it to produce the heat, and it is stirred continuously, and they will check the percentage of the concentration in that one, and when the desired percentage, that is almost 80 to 85%, the viscosity of sugar cane juice will increase, and that time they will stop it. And it is dark on solidifying at room temperature. So whatever the viscous material they are getting, they will fill that in mold and they will keep it for the solidifying, and after solidification we can have the good. So it is in conical shape generally, and each will have the more than 10 to 20 kgs per the cone of the good. Then inverts mainly to monosaccharides on storage and does contain nutritionally desirable iron. So here the main thing with the good is that it will have the iron content in appreciable amount, and that has the great nutrition value. So here what they are doing, they are taking sugarcane juice in open pan, they are heating to desired concentration, and they are solidifying in molds to get the good molds. The extent of sugar inversion. So the extent of sugar obtained based on raw sugar of 96 degree polarization is usually 93 to 94%, 0.5% and mechanical and washed loses, that is 0.7%. So in handling sugar, some inversion takes place according to the following reaction. So sucrose with water, it will convert into the glucose and fructose. So the glucose is the important molecule for us. The product is called as invert sugar, but the polarization of the pure sucrose of 66.6 degree plus means to the right. Now reads minus 20 degree means to the left for the resulting mixture. So this one we can calculate what is the inversion. So this is 52 for D-glucose and 92 for the fructose. So the total mixture that will yield the 20 degree, that is to the left. So that's how we can calculate the inversion, extent of inversion of sugar. Then there are other sugar than glucose and fructose, that are lactose or the milk sugar. It is made from waste cream milk. Then the sorbitol is manufactured by hydrogenation of dextrose under pressure and using nickel as a catalyst or by reduction in an electrolytic cell. Then the mannitol is made by hydrogenating sucrose to yield a 3:1 sorbitol to mannitol mixture, difficult to separate. It is used in the pill manufacture and electrolytic condenser. Then xylitol or sugar alcohol made by reduction of xylose is now produced on a large scale. Then gluconic acid, which is made by oxidizing glucose by fermentation or by electrolytic oxidation, forms useful calcium and iron salts used pharmaceutically. Then it can be assimilated by diabetic without use of insulin, in non-fermentable and does not promote dental caries, so used in toothpaste, chewing gums and candy, etc. So whatever the new type of the toothpaste which are coming, they will mainly contain this gluconic acid, because this is useful in the dental caries, not to have the dental caries. Then there is corn sweeteners. So it's a major portion of nutritive sweeteners now comes from a starch which is mainly from corn. Conversion into fructose containing syrup. Then conversion of starch into glucose by treatment with acid or by enzyme alpha amylose. So here the whatever inverted, we can invert them into glucose back with the help of alpha amylase. Then enzyme can convert up to 42% of the glucose to fructose, which has 1:3 times the sweetening power of sucrose, and used as direct syrup or recirculated to achieve 55% of fructose. This can be dried but hygroscopic, hence cannot be used in homes. So this is more hygroscopic than the natural sugar. So it can be used in home products. So another procedure can be used to make 95 to 100% fructose, and this passes the glucose solution over a bed of immobilized glucose to oxidase, which oxidizes the glucose to glucosone, which can in turn be hydrogenated to fructose. And this is not yet commercialized, so in future the biochemical engineering will lead to have this procedure commercialized. So the next thing we will discuss is the starch. So this is the typical structure of the starch, and this is the powder form of the starch appearing. So starch is a high polymer carbohydrate occurring in grains and roots in the form of granules 3 to 100 micron size, and this granule can be extracted from the grains by water hydration of the cells. It is represented by C6H10O5, and it has two types, the linear chain which is amylose and the branch chain which is amylopectin. So chemical reactivity, if we see, then it is readily hydrolyzed by acids, alkali and enzymes to molecules of progressively smaller size, giving soluble starch, dextrin and dextrose, that is D-glucose. Then reaction with water, the starch granules 3 to 20 micron from maize swell progressively as shorter polymers dissolve until a gel forms depending on time, temperature, contact. The gel form in several minutes in water in 60 to 80 degrees centigrade. Then if you see the amylose, which is a straight chain, then amylose is made up of the alpha 1 to 4 bound glucose molecules. Then these carbon atoms on glucose are numbered starting at the aldehyde, that C double bond O carbon will start the numbering. So in amylose, the one carbon on the one glucose molecule is linked to the fourth carbon on the next glucose molecule. So that is alpha 1 to 4 bonds. So here if you start numbering from aldehyde, then in the amylose we will have the bonding between the first carbon and the fourth carbon in the next glucose molecule. And the number of repeated glucose subunits is usually in the range of 300 to 3000, but can be in many thousands. So there are three main forms of amylase chain can take. It can exist in disordered amorphous, the conversion of two different helical forms. It can bind with itself in a double helix, A or B form, or it can bind with another hydrophobic guest molecule such as iodine or fatty acid or aromatic compound. So this is the thing. So here we have seen it is, suppose aldehyde, if you start numbering from 1, then at the 4, at the 1, it will link with the fourth of the other glucose molecule. So the glucose molecule, they will bonded over here and they will condense by losing water. So this chain will go on progressing. So this number of units n, they may be in 300 or they may be in thousands. The amylopectin, which is branch chain, so it is a soluble polysaccharide and highly branched polymer of glucose found in plants. It is one of the two components of starch, the other being the amylose. And the glucose units are linked in a linear way with alpha 1 to 4 glycosidic bonds. Then branching takes place with alpha 1 to 6 bonds occurring every 24 to 30 glucose units, resulting in a soluble molecule that can be quickly degraded as it has many endpoints for enzyme to attack onto. Then it is easily attacked by the enzymes and which can break it. The earlier we have 1 to 4, but in this one we can have the 1 to 6 bond at every 24 to 30 glucose molecules. In contrast, amylose contains every few alpha 1 to 6 bonds, which causes it to hydrolyze more slowly, but have higher density and can be insoluble in the water. So this is the structure for the amylopectin, where you can see this is the amylose, and in between we can have the bond which is alpha 1 6, so that makes different, or it may the branch one for the amylopectin. The end users, we can use the amylopectin in paper, in textiles, in jute, in food, to make the adhesives, to have the laundry products, to prepare the beverages, then hydrolysis products. The method of production for the starches, the major source is maize kernels and wet milling process for the removal of starch. Then maize kernels containing 60 to 65% starch are screened and air cleaned. Then steep in 50 to 55 degrees centigrade water containing 0.5 to 0.30% sulfur dioxide as bacteriostatic. Then the softened grains are passed through coarse grinding mills to rupture the cells and loosen the oil gum, which is floated off a large slurry tank. And the starch portion of the kernel is wet ground on the burnstone mills and passed over nylon cloth, where the water washes the starch through and leaves the fiber and husk on the screen. So maize is the raw material that is screened and that is crushed in next. Then the seed will contain the oil germ and the starch. So when the softening and grounding, it is passed over the nylon cloth and the water is passed. So water will dissolve the starch and it will be filtered out, whereas on the cloth we can have the fiber and husk remaining. The starch suspension in the underflow from the screens obtain gluten, which is water insoluble protein, which is separated as a light fraction in two-stage centrifuge operation. So after water containing starch is getting underflow, then gluten we can remove by the centrifugation. The starch is recovered as a filter cake on continuous rotary filter, and it can be dried powder and sold as the pearl starch. The other products can be made by gelatizing with water or by hydrolysis, and the starch derivative of higher value than starch itself are obtained in the further process. So here mainly the maize is taken, then it is softened, then it is milled, and after milling it is passed to the cloth where the starch will be dissolved, and the fiber and hulls we can separate on the cloth. Then this liquor will have the gluten, which is separated by centrifugation, and then the mother liquor containing starch, we can dry them, we can powder, and we can sold, or we can use for the other products recovery. So this is the process flow diagram for the starch recovery. So maize is the raw material. So then we are taking them and then we are cleaning the maize. With the air we are cleaning the maize kernels. So it will take the waste material outside. Then magnetic separation, if there is any impurity present over there, then it will be separated. Then it is sent to a tank where the acetate also added. So and the water added. So here it will become the softened one. So decanted stiff water for evaporated for animal feed or for fermentation to produce antibiotics. So it will be softened, and then here it will come for germinator where the oil germ it will be separated. Then whatever the remaining, the hull and the starch, they will come over here. Then jump to male oil processing, and the wet bar mill, it will be crushed over here. So here the oil and other things will be separated. Then it will be milled. Then after milling, what we'll get is the starch solution. So that can be centrifuged at a high speed, and then gluten, which is separated in high speed centrifugage. Then water will contain the starch, then which we can dry, and we can have the washing press over here. Then after drying, we can send them for the packaging. So here the maize will come, which is cleaned over here. Then it is softened. Then oil germ is removed over here. Then the liquor is centrifuged to remove gluten. Then it is washed and it is dried to have the starch, and then starch we can send for the shipping. Now we'll see the starch derivatives. So heat and acid depolymerization yields a water soluble carbohydrate gum, which is used in adhesives and gums. Then the chemical reaction, here we are using we are heating the starch, and then acid we are adding as a reaction catalyst. Then the starch will produce the polymer, which is used in adhesives and gums. Then here it can be produced in batch heating in scrapping type autoclave units, that is older process, or we can produce them in fluidized hydrolysis, which is modern process. So that we will see in the next slide. So process description is follows. Batch operation charges 5 to 10 microgram starch to an air suspended fluidizer. Then heat is added via rectangular shaped plate coils using 10 to 12 atmospheres. Then steam in the upper section of the fluidizer. The charge reaches 65 to 170 degrees centigrade depending on the degree of hydrolysis desired within 30 minutes. Then HCl vapors is introduced into recirculating air stream, and depolarization is continued for 1 to 8 hours. The reaction can be stopped by ammonia addition and or rapid cooling by using water in plate coil exchangers. So this is process flow diagram for the dextrin manufacturing using the starch. So starch is a raw material, and we have already seen the reaction. The starch when heated and reacted with HCl, then it can give the dextrin as a product. So we are taking them in plate coil heat exchangers where steam is added at high atmosphere, that is 10 to 12, and it will have the fluidization over here. So fluid batch depolymerization. So fluidization will occur over here, and the steam which are feeding from the upper section. Then HCl we are charging over here. So the reaction will take place within 1 to 8 hours, and we can get the dextrin. So here the solution from this one, it can be condensed over here, and the makeup we can add from this one. If you want to stop the reaction, we can have the NH3 from this, and whatever the unreacted we can recycle them, and then again we can add to this reactor where we can get more and more the dextrin, which is the starch derivative. Here main engineering features are the starch agglomerates during hydrolysis, thus allowing fluidization without excessive carryover of fines. Then gives uniform degradation due to uniform temperature regulation. And when compared to the older autoclave units, it will have the advantage such that It converts 4 times in 1 to 3 time in 1/3 time of the earlier, then 1/8 slower place than earlier with 20% capital investment, then produces superior products, then require less operating labors and maintenance and fuel. So the new process which has the more advantage over the older process, and we can produce the product in at very less price, being the less maintenance and less labor, also the cost and the floor place is required. Then if you see the dialdehyde starch, then an oxidized form of starch which is used in paper industry as strain additive and in additives and the chemical reaction. So first it will have the oxidation of starch. So starch, it will be oxidized. So here we are using the iodine derivative, that is hypoiodide, and then we will have the dialdehyde, and we can have the iodine acid and the water. So here the regeneration of iodic acid to periodic acid. So here the periodic acid we can have by the reaction with the iodic acid. So iodic acid with hydroxyl ions will give the periodic acid, and then it can be regenerated, which you can attack further starch molecule, and it can oxidize to yield the dialdehyde. So starch slurry contacts periodic acid in a batch reaction with the oxidized starch separated from iodic acid solution by centrifuging. Then reduced solution is reoxidized as the analyte in a unique electrolytic cell. The major engineering problem in this one is lower cost iodic acid recovery is the key to the process. Then the analyte is quite corrosive, and the development of cation action membrane between analyte and the catalyte, which is 5% NH, was the key to the success. Then the electrolysis unit consists of a number of polyvinyl acetate frame constructed in filter press style. Then one perforated iron sheet with membrane on either side services two analyte chambers with lead sheet as the common anode, and all pipings are the polyvinyl acetate plastic to avoid the corrosion. Then the starch phosphate, a starch ester which is water soluble, has excellent freeze thaw stability, good thickening power. It is used as thickener in canned and frozen foods, additives, emulsion paint formulation, pharmaceutical filters, and the binders. So this is the reaction over here. So this is reacted with Na2HCl4, and we can have the starch phosphate over here. So it is similar to the earlier reaction, only the difference is we are using Na2HCl4 here to get the starch phosphate. So here what happens exactly? The starch slurry is reacted with alkaline phosphate solution at various conditions depending upon the degree of esterification. So the phosphate molecule will add it to the compound. So this esterification needed, we will try to have the condition. Then we will maintain pH around 8.5 to 9.5 and temperature around 50 to 70 degrees centigrade with 10 to 60 minutes. And these are the variables we will use in the process. In water soluble solutions are filtered and filtrate is press dried. And the other starches which we get is the white potato starch. So the potato, it will have the more amount of starch. So it will generally contain of 10 to 30% of the starch. Then dry starch, it is made from the cargo rice. Then cassava, that is tapioca starch. It is obtained from the roots and tubers of manioc plant, mainly in Thailand and Brazil. Then sago starch, which is obtained from the pith of sago palm and also from the yams in the East Indies and Borneo. Then the sweet potatoes, sorghum, then waxy sorghum and waxicum. This we can use to get the starch from the plants. So we will use Revision Dryden for reference, and the next time we will see the pulp and paper industry.